even when you look at if you were to go to certain places in Africa right now,
Shalom Art Barak.
if you were to go over there, some places
It's time for a party.
and do another revival or something like that,
Today's party
and go help out the
is
community, go out
called
to your homeland and stuff like that.
Do You Have a
When
Smith
we
in Your Life?
go over there, what you discover is you're going to give a time. You're going to say, let's say revival is going to be every day at noon. What you discover is it's going to be noon. You're going to see, now you're going to see some person show up really early because they're going to make sure the food and stuff is being prepared and all that. But then you'll see it'll be about noon, maybe a couple persons have shown up. You'll see it's going to be 1 p.m. Maybe you got kind of the room setting up. It's going to be about 2 p.m. Okay, now it's starting to be clear. Everybody's coming.
See one in YouTube land.
You'll
Shalom
probably ask a
Barak to
question
you.
like after a couple of days, like, why don't we just start at 12? Why don't this and that?
For back.
Well,
Shalom.
relative,
Akati Deborah.
right?
Shalom.
They still go by that. Right? People will call
We
it
have a real important party today.
A lot of our people have a problem. Look,
Do you have a Smith in your life?
and I believe you should be on time.
What's a Smith?
Time is relative. Like, for example, addresses, right? It's just culture.
A Smith is a person
It's just now in the last few years
who is an expert in a craft, most of the time labeled as a blacksmith, a goldsmith. There's even a wordsmith. Is there a Smith in your life? Can you name off someone named Smith? And the reason why I'm asking you is because have you ever met someone named Opinion? You ever met someone named False Facts? You ever met someone named Mentiriosa or Mentirioso? Don't tell anybody I know Spanish.
Is there a lot of fruit over there? Is it there? They'll start having conversations about a lot of different things because there's way more ways of finding out where somebody lives besides just an address, right? Now, if you don't have somebody's address, many of us wouldn't know what to do. If somebody were to say, go visit Sister Monica in the Bronx, somebody out there would be able to, like, open up a map or just ask people along the way, even if you've never been to New York City, they would be able to be like, figure out where the Bronx is. And then once we get to the Bronx, we can actually start having some conversation. We can start looking at landmarks. We can start looking at what time of day it is. We can start looking at, you know what I'm saying?
For those of you who don't know,
Somebody would say, I'm looking for a coach.
that's my Kahalet. It's my leader. It's my teacher. It's my big little brother. His name is Kofi. Kofi Ofori. Kofifori. You can find him by typing in search #find Kofi. And by the way, yes, Bang Joel, I do see you. Shalom Barak to you. My answer to you when you ask me where I'm from. I come from Yahweh Elohim. I shall return to Yahweh Elohim. And may Yahweh Elohim be pleased when I return. Where am I right now? On the planet Earth. Because everything belongs to Yahweh Elohim, including myself. Yahweh Elohim is the name of our Creator. Our Creator owns everything. So I come from our Creator. Did anybody figure out what mentirioso or mentiriosa means? Mentiriosa. We're about to get cranked up. I'm just kind of getting into my sorts because today is going to be a reading party. I'm going to go ahead and turn off this live that's being broadcasted from Kahala Kofi. You love your country, England, 1985. Do you know what staccato means? Do you know what chop shop means? Do you know what derogatory remarks means? Do you know what it means when you come into the presence of royalty and royalty still has to address you with the most pleasant greeting in the world? Assalamu alaikum. I love my country, England, 1985. Our Father's peace to you. Now, if you put an apostrophe in front of COON, I might think that you were actually trying to abbreviate something. However, you're just typing out some letters. As a matter of fact, there are certain languages where that word might mean something completely different than what you're trying to infer. You don't care about royalty. You don't care about self then. Where I walk, I am royalty. Now, to be honest with you, I'll give you about another 15 seconds of fame because we already have an agenda. As a matter of fact, we're in the midst of rocking and rolling right now. We've been rocking and rolling since before there was an electric guitar. We've been rocking and rolling since before that first boat that nobody wants to talk about. We have been rocking and rolling because we were already on boats before that boat. We were traveling, visiting, and casting nets. And we're in the process of doing so right now because there's always a daily battle. I am royalty. My family is royalty. I come from royalty, I represent royalty, and my lineage is royalty. My concern is not whether you care or not, because I am not here to please you. I'm not here to serve you. That's what's up. So let's move forward. What does it really mean to be royalty? Because even royalty has to serve someone. I've been authorized by Yahweh Elohim, also known as Allah or Allahu. And I was given a name, I was given authority. I'm guided by Ravak HaKadesh. And through my experience in walk in life and studies, I follow the example of Yahashivai HaMashiach. I'm just pausing because I'm reading your comments. Serve who? Their people. I'm here to serve our Creator. My service is to pass a message of information, knowledge, wisdom, and conscientiousness. I've been given capacities to do that through music, images, and speech, along with interconnectivity through technology. My name itself means that I'm crowned king. However, it also means that I am an ambassador. I am an ambassador whose office is in a place that most people do not want to go to. And I'm not there in torment. I'm there to remind you that when you make the wrong choices, you get to go to torment. I'm here as a reminder. Which leads us to the point of today's discussion. You want to go where? Be careful what you ask for. Because you may not know exactly what I'm talking about. Thank you for joining in on the discussion. May you enjoy your ride. So, as in every day, I wake up pondering, what are we going to talk about today? What's today's mission? Because we do speak live 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time daily, except for Shabbat, to speak on 10 specific special interest groups. These special interest groups are businesses. These businesses are interconnected. They are interdependent. And so we're looking at organic marketing strategies from their perspectives, each one of them, because they all stand uniquely. However, they work together. Today's special interest group is SOC, Servants of Christ. And when we focus on SOC, we're going to talk about community development. So let's see here. I love my country. England 1985 says, I've been to some places. I've been in maximum security prison. I served 14 years. That was hell. Many people have heard the phrase, heaven is what you make it and hell is what you go through. Pardon the pun. You faced life. That wasn't hell. You saw what men and women do to men and women. You have not seen what our Creator has in store for our souls. You haven't seen it, heard about it. You've seen the evil that men do amongst themselves. So my question to you is, what righteous deeds have you seen? If you can tell me that you have experienced hell, can you tell me that you've also experienced heaven? Buckle up, it might get bumpy. Khan Akati. Oh yeah. Like I said, today is going to be a reading party. I found the exact passages that I need to read. And I pray that you enjoy it just as much as I will. Let's see here. I was convicted of home invasion and ×2 GBH. That sounds a lot like you busted into somebody's door and gave them some inhibiting chemicals. So you know about the evil that men can do to other people as well. Now, I'm not going to pass judgment on you. You say you were convicted. Were you convicted of something you were guilty of? And believe me, no, this isn't going to just be a conversation between two and I. It was on 2 counts. On 2 nonsense. And yes, you were guilty. Well, like I said, I'm not here to judge you. I have no idea what you're doing currently in life or what you plan to do in the future. You get to decide that. You get to decide what path you want to take. And with that being said, we're about to start discussing the divine path. We're about to start discussing the fact that there are a lot of people out here who say they are experts on the divine path. They say they are a smith. Let's go. For those of you who don't know, I'm a studied Muslim. I practice Islam. I live Islam. I don't practice it. You can practice football. You're a player on the field sometimes. No, every day, all day, I'm a Muslim. It is said that when you do something that is sinful is the moment when you're not a Muslim. And then the second you go back to being a Muslim, there you are. You're a Muslim again. Basically, if you do something sinful, that's the time that our Creator would turn his eye away from you. And then by the time you come back around to doing right, our Creator looks at you again. It is also said that when you do a righteous deed in the name of Allah, subhanahu wa ta'ala, all praises to our source of sustenance and mercy. When you take a step towards Allah, Allah takes 1,000 steps towards you. That should let you know just how far away we've removed ourselves, if that's a saying by man. And believe me, yeah, we're going somewhere. You know how it is when you get on a roller coaster and it takes a while for it to go up that hill or coast around the corner before you actually get to drop and see what inertia can do for you. That's where we're at right now. You see, there was a discussion today, a live discussion. Our Kohalet comes on at 8 a.m. Eastern time. And he delivers a message Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, sometimes Sunday. And there's also evening sessions. Today was question and answer period. And there was a question concerning, what do you do when someone steps outside of the assembly? They still use the teachings. However, they are talking counter to leadership, counter to the goals and achievements of what the assembly is doing. What do we do? Who do we choose as far as siding up with? How do we decide if we should take any information that was given? And also, I'm sure you noticed when I came on live, it was still playing, and it was talking about the questions and the concepts of time. You see, there's a question going on right now about how do we adjust ourselves to this Avra calendar, this Paleo Hebrew calendar? Because we're used to this notion of 7 days out of the week. And then you tell us that the names of the week that we're using are outside of standard. We're not supposed to use them. You tell us that the calendar that we're used to, we're not supposed to use. And this Paleo Hebrew calendar is different. And you tell us that we're supposed to adjust according to the moon phases. And there's 28 days that would make a moon phase, but we still got all these extra days left over. Even if we counted up 12 lunar cycles, there's still 29 days left over. What are we supposed to do with them 29 days? Are you telling us we got a 12-month calendar, but it's really supposed to be 13? What are we supposed to do? Those are the questions that are in the air right now. Today's party is there a Smith in your life? Normally, we would be simultaneously broadcasting on TikTok and YouTube. Today, however, no, we're just going to be on YouTube because my device gets finicky Today, once again, it decided that we weren't going to do a multi-channel broadcast. It shut down the camera and the audio on the program, and it would have taken another 10 or 15 minutes for me to get all of that straightened out instead of going live. There's a daily battle. When we get irritated, it's because now we're getting placed in a spot where it's not what we're used to. It's not a comfort zone. I bring up the example about the fact that we're not multi-channel broadcasting right now because the assembly is used to TikTok. TikTok doesn't care about the assembly. TikTok is not going to do anything beneficial for the assembly. There's a reason why our Kahalet has different channels that he uses when he's doing multi-streaming. If I had 3 or 4 devices, yeah, you'd see me on 6 or 7 different channels just with 3 devices. Because we have to look beyond our comfort zone. Somebody told you there's a 7-day week. What's 7 times 4? 28. Somebody told you that there has to be a median, an agreed meeting point of 30 days in a month. They never told you that there was a standard before that. They never told you. And you never told yourself to go look it up. They definitely didn't tell you to look it up. And you didn't bother. So then when someone gives you something new, now you're in confusion. Now you're ready to rebel against the true information. That can't be right because it's not adding up in my calculations. You ever looked at the table of multiplication, 0 through 12? 3 times 4 equals 12. 2 times 6 equals 12. 1 times 12 equals 12. 5 plus 7 equals 12. I can get 12 all kinds of different ways, not just one. The main idea, though, is that those whole numbers have to always be seen as the same set standard in order to get to the same 12. Anybody figured out what mentirioso and mentiriosa means? In Spanish, it means liar. Mentirioso, a male who is a liar. Mentiriosa, a female who is a liar. So we got this big old shared problem as a people. We get lied to on a constant basis. It's thrown in our face on a constant basis. Lies, 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 and more lies. A lie to compound on another lie just so it can seem like the truth. And the more you start believing in the lie, then yeah, it does become the truth. So that's what we're facing right now in our existence. We are told to live a lie. And then not too many people actually go and look to find out what's the truth. We are told to pledge allegiance to a certain type of way. and never take the time to look up if that's what we are supposed to actually ally our lives with. Ally, align, allegiance. Welcome to this voyage called wordsmithing. We're going on a journey. I've had approximately 2 cups of coffee today. That actually equals to 4. I think I'm going to cook up one more round of coffee. We're about to start reading in just a moment. I'm making sure everything is in place. Let's see here. We're at the 26-minute mark. I think we started maybe 20 or 30 minutes after the hour. It gives us 5 or 10 minutes before we actually get to the top of the next hour. So we're about to rock and roll for an hour. And we've got plenty of reading during that time. Let's go and get this water cooking. All right. Who out there has heard the phrase, the Quran was sent as a reminder? Who's heard that phrase? The Quran was sent as a reminder. It's a reference book. It's to cause you to recall the original way, the principal way, the way our Creator designed things to be. Anyone who reads the Quran will see that several times over in each surah. A surah is a passage in the Quran, a section in the Quran where Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, our Father's peace be with him, and all prophets and martyrs before and after him. That's what sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that's what that means. A surah or a section or a revelation is when Prophet Muhammad would stand before the people and say, okay, well, this was the next message. We're about to go into a reading exercise where I'm going to read aloud what's actually printed, but I want you to understand something before we even start. There's some key things that you need to keep in your own mental glossary. A surah is a section in the Quran. It's a whole, complete, revealed message. However, no, it is not a chapter. The Quran is actually broken down pretty much evenly in 30 sections. They are called juz, J-U-Z. Those 30 sections is what you would call a chapter. Because the surah, those sections can be 7 lines long, ayat, what you would say as a verse in the Bible. A verse in the Quran is an ayat. That the ayat can go from 7 to where you have another one where it's 200. So when have you ever read a book where one chapter was 7 sentences long, and then the next chapter was 8 to 9 pages, and then the next chapter was 30 pages, and then the next chapter was 1 page, and then the next chapter was 2 pages, and then the next chapter was 10? That's not how books are set up. So a chapter in the Quran is a juz. A surah in the Quran is a section of revelation where Prophet Muhammad has spoken before the people. Some would call it a sermon. In Arabic, that's also known as a khutbah. Pardon me, I'm getting some water together. It would be during the delivery of a khutbah that a surah would be revealed. Next up, because we're talking about calendars, I want to address something. The known calendar that most people speak on when they talk about modern Muslims, they speak on the Hijra calendar. Let's look at the word Hijra. Hijra means the Hajj, or after the Hajj, after the pilgrimage. The pilgrimage is when Muhammad took the people from Mecca over to Medina because they needed a place of safety. This was years after the first surah was revealed. So there wouldn't have been a Hijra calendar or a Hajj calendar. There wouldn't have been a name for it until people actually had to do an exodus from Mecca and go to Medina. I'm telling you this because I've already read through the information I'm about to tell you or read with you so that you can have an understanding. Because here's the next part of it. You see, all of this exercise leads back to who tells the whole truth compares to who gives you a little bit of information that is true and then a whole bunch of false statements wrapped around it. Everybody's running around right now trying to talk about how they are the true representation of the divine path. Let me tell you something. For every doubt that you have about Christian churches, for every doubt that you have about Hebrews, for every doubt that you have about Islam, for every doubt that you have about Buddhism, for every doubt that you have about Catholicism, for every doubt that you have about Druids, Celts, people who live their normal Aboriginal lives, for all the questions and doubts that you have, it's because you keep walking into places where it's somebody still going on with the traditions of their ancestors, not the traditions of the Creator. Just because you have an elder in your life does not mean that that elder is righteous or holy. Just because somebody has been given so much elevation and position and lofty titles does not make them a smith in righteousness. Just because somebody told you, oh, that's the representation over there, we can see it because this is what's going on today, and these people are talking that way. They're reciting those things. And look at how they wear their clothes. That's different than what we do. So that must be the representation. No. It's been stated in every one of our holy scrolls, no matter what language, no matter what tradition. When you step out of the standards, your faces will be changed to where you don't even reflect what your fathers did. You don't look like your father. You don't act like your father. Selah. Oh, yes, we're going somewhere today. So I was tuned in to the live rising broadcast shortly before I started this broadcast. I woke up a little late today. Kept hearing all this stuff about should we choose sides and whose side should we choose and who's the real leader and what is leadership and what about this over here and what about that over there and concepts of time. Keep bringing in all these other people's concepts instead of just keeping it real simple. Going back to the original. If we know that there are people who have been set in place who have taken us away from our original concepts, that means we need to step completely away from the concepts they've given us. If we know that there are 28 days in a moon phase, then this is what we do. Count the first day, second, third, fourth, fifth, all the way up to day 28. Now, how are you going to be able to keep count? Because each day you're using a different reason to worship our Creator. Each and every day. One focus, worship our Creator. There are all kinds of ways you can figure out to worship our Creator. Reasons behind worshiping our Creator. There's 99 attributes given to our Creator. There's a starter. There's one name. There's all kinds of cat. Woo. There's one name. There are all kinds of attributes. My brain's moving faster than my tongue can, and I'm in here trying to prepare some coffee. Where is my mind? Waiting for my cup now to pour this hot water into. Oh, grab a spoon while I'm here. As soon as I get this coffee prepared, we're going to start reading. Because it won't take an hour for the reading part. That's why I'm giving you all a heads up. Because you need to know. I'm not going to just walk you into something blind and then you're trying to figure out what's going on. I'm giving you a heads up. Because I want you to actually take this in. I want you to think about it. I want you to think about somewhere in the scriptures it also tells us in the end times it'll be just like the days of Noah. It's in there somewhere. And so if that's the case, we know that there is a standard that we are supposed to live by. And it's going to be a shining beacon from someone who's living this way. Because not everybody else is going to be living this way. Might be fortunate enough to actually see a whole family that's living that way. Then we're getting somewhere. Not that, this whole group of people is claiming to live a certain way. No. Because a whole group of people might have a couple of them in there that are not doing right. And if the whole group of people tolerates it, then the whole group of people is foul. There are 3 names attributed to Muslims and Islam that are important after Abraham and Ishmael. 3 names. Because there was a whole lineage that led up to Abraham and Ishmael. So anybody who would want to claim to be a Muslim or practice Islam would have to practice the ways of Abraham and Ishmael. Now, does that necessarily mean that a person is going to do exactly what Abraham did, it's not physically possible because that person is not Abraham. Will they strive to get as close as possible, though? Well, that's when a person actually gets accolades and someone would say, Mashallah, our Father is pleased with your work. So let me go ahead and get these 2 scoops and a little bit of sugar together so we can get to reading. All right, without further ado. It's an overcast day where I am. Anybody else experiencing rain? I remember, Akati, you said you've been catching some rain past couple of days throughout this week. We're just not really catching the rain. We've had some threats of it. But now today is actually overcast. I'll tell you how distracted I was. The cup that I use to drink coffee out of is metal. Now, it's not something you're supposed to do, but the water that I heat up is in a plastic cup. You know, we're not supposed to be cooking with plastic. However, yeah, we all do certain things that we're not supposed to do. So, there it is. I got distracted because I didn't find my metal cup in time, pulled out the hot water from the microwave, and just proceeded to dump the coffee into the heating cup. There are 3 names associated with Islam outside of Ibrahim and Ismail. That's Prophet Muhammad, his close companion Abu Bakr, and Abu Bakr's brother, Mansa Musa. Anyone else? Any other names that you hear outside of that? Warm and cloudy. Any other names that you hear outside of that are people who had their own agenda, an agenda outside of Islam. If you don't believe me, do your studies. You even heard me say Ruhollah Khomeini and Ruhollah Gaddafi were some great examples at leadership. And yes, they were. Don't get me wrong. For what they were trying to establish with circles of influence and so on, yes. Now, did they make 100% decisions that were the will of Allah? I'm not going to say that because we would be in a different circumstance right now. When people get into leadership positions and then they start jockeying back and forth with other so-called political powers on this planet in order to just survive, then that means that they are also paying acquiescence to a system that is in violation with the original system. Please bear that in mind. That's why every time someone asks me where I'm from, I give them a confounding answer. From the same place you from. That might be my new answer. Coffee. All right. Now, I must request one more allowance before we get started. need to visit the lavatory real quick. Sorry about all the noise. Gonna put on a song real quick, just long enough for me to go and take care of business, and we will really get started. Okay. I'll be right back.
To 2008. This is the third movement from the piano trio number 3, Romantico. It was composed in 2008, and that subtitle, Romantico, to denote the expansive and broad musical gestures evocative of late 19th century chamber music. This is Trio Arbos.
Thank you all for your patience. It's time to begin. I'm sure many of you observe practices of cleaning your hands before you touch the holy book. That's what I was just doing. At this point, I will say, Basmalah, in the name of our Father, by the will of our Father. We're going to partake in some information and some knowledge, just like eating food. Before we consume food, a Muslim would say, Basmalah, in the name of our Father. May this nourish my body. All right. Today's reading comes from an introduction to the Quran. It's not part of the surah. This is a biography that was written by the person who compounded this particular copy of this edition. So what I'm going to do is read some excerpts leading from the explanation of what was going on with Prophet Muhammad all the way up to the day that Prophet Muhammad, Ali, and Abu Bakr left Mecca to go to Medina, because it was a process. It wasn't that they just all jumped up and left and everything was fine. No, the people had to leave because they were trying to kill Prophet Muhammad. So there's a story behind that. So we're going to discuss from the beginnings prior to him receiving the message, the first message, all the way up to that moment in Mecca when they had to leave, and then his last message to the people. And I want you to actually listen. I want you to take in the difference between what a person actually says compared to where people take it somewhere else. Let's begin. Muhammad, peace be upon him, son of Abdullah, son of Abdul Muttalib, of the tribe of Quraysh, was born at Mecca on the 12th of Rabi al-Awwal, 22nd of April, 571 AD, 53 years before the Hijrah, Hajj. His father died before he was born, and he was brought up first by his grandfather, Abdul Muttalib, and after his grandfather's death, by his uncle, Abu Talib. As a young boy, he traveled with his uncle in the merchant's caravan to Syria. Despite the prevalence of corruption, debauchery, gambling, drinking, and other vices, he kept himself isolated, chaste, and pure. He never bowed before the idols, as was the prevailing practice of his family and tribe. He joined a body of like-minded youth who formed an association to help the poor and the oppressed people against their oppressors, which was called Hilfu Fudhu. Actually, that would be Fuzul. When D and H are put together in a word, it's not pronounced D, it's pronounced Z. So Hilfu Fuzul. His wisdom enabled him to diffuse an ugly situation caused by tension among the various tribes. At the time of rebuilding the Kaaba, that big black cube in Mecca, At the time of rebuilding the Kaaba, claiming the right to adjust the black stone, there's one cornerstone, just like how you've heard Peter is the cornerstone. And the issue was claiming the right to adjust the black stone. He suggested that the black stone be put on a sheet of cloth, and the leader of each tribe hold the sheet, raise the stone, and put it in its place. When he became old enough to choose a profession, he chose the honorable profession of trade. He earned such a reputation that most prominent capitalists of Mecca wished to invest their money in business through him. In this profession, he made another journey to Syria in the service of a wealthy widow named Khadijah. So faithfully did he transact the widow's business, and so excellent was his behavior reported by her old servant who had accompanied him, that soon afterwards she married her young agent. The marriage proved a very happy one, though she was 15 years older than him. Throughout the 26 years of their life together, he remained devoted to her. After her death, when he took other wives, he always mentioned her with the greatest love and reverence. This marriage gave him rank amongst the notables of Mecca, while his conduct earned for him the surnames of Al-Amin, the trustworthy, and Al-Siddiq, the truthful. The Meccans claimed descent from Prophet Abraham through Ishmael, and tradition stated that their temple, the Kaaba, had been built by Abraham for the worship of one God. It was still called the House of Allah, but the chief objects of worship there were a number of idols which were called intercessors and daughters of Allah. Intercessors. Watch out when people start talking about how they're going to be an intercessor for you. The few who felt disgust at this idolatry, which had prevailed for centuries, longed for the religion of Abraham and tried to find out what had been its teaching. Such seekers of the truth were known as Hunafa, singular Hanif, a word originally meaning those who turn away from the existing idol worship, but later signifying upright or by nature upright, because such persons held the way of truth and right conduct. These Hunafa did not form a community. They were the agnostics of their day, each seeking truth by the light of his own inner consciousness. Muhammad, peace be upon him, became one of them. It was his practice to retire from his family for 1 month each year to a cave in the desert for meditation. His place of retreat was Hira, a cave in a desert hill not far from Mecca, and his chosen month was Ramadan. This is why at the beginning of this I told you, you can't go by the calendar that they're talking about. Ramadan did not exist until after Hijrah, until after the pilgrimage. He was already practicing going to be by himself 1 month out of the year. There was even a chosen time that never changed. Selah. It was there one night, toward the end of a quiet month, that the first revelation came to him. He was 40 years old at the time. He was meditating when he heard a voice say, "Read." He said, "I cannot read." The voice again said, "Read." He said, "I cannot read." A third time the voice repeated, "Read." He said, "What may I read?" The voice said, "Read in the name of your Rabb, Lord, who created man from a leech-like mess. Read." Your Lord is the most gracious, who taught by the pen, taught man what he knew not. Now, this one can be found in Surah 96, ayah 1 through 5. The words remained as if inscribed upon his heart. He went out of the cave to the hillside and heard the same awe-inspiring voice say, "O Muhammad, you are Allah's messenger, and I am Jabril." Then he raised his eyes and saw the angel in the likeness of a man standing in the sky above the horizon. And again the voice said, "O Muhammad, you are Allah's messenger, and I am Jabril." Muhammad, peace be upon him, stood quite still, turning away his face from the brightness of the vision. But wherever he turned his face, the angel was there confronting him. He remained there a long time, till at length the angel vanished. He returned in great distress of mind to his wife Khadijah. He was shivering. He asked his wife to cover him with a heavy blanket. He related his vision to Khadijah. She did her best to reassure him, saying that his conduct had been such that Allah would not let a harmful spirit come to him. Later, she took him to her cousin, Waraka bin Naufal, a very old man, who knew the scriptures of the Jews and Christians. He declared his belief that the heavenly messenger of Jabril, who came to Prophet Musa of old, had come to Muhammad. Musa is Moses. And that he was chosen as the prophet of his people. He further said, people will not believe him. They will persecute him, expel him, and wage war against him. I wish I could live long enough to support him. To understand the reason for Prophet's diffidence and his extreme distress of mind after the vision at the cave of Hira, it must be remembered that Hunafa sought true religion in nature and regarded with distrust the intercourse with spirits of which men, avid of the unseen, sorcerers and soothsayers, and even poets boasted in those days. Moreover, he was a man of humble and devout nature, a lover of quiet and solitude. The very thought of being chosen to face mankind alone with such a message scared him at first. Recognition of the divine nature of the call he had received involved a change in him, in his whole mental outlook, sufficient to disturb a sensitive and honest mind, which also involved the forsaking of his quiet way of life. With that continuance of the revelations and the conviction that they brought, at length he accepted the tremendous task imposed upon him, becoming filled with the enthusiasm of obedience, which justifies his proudest title, the slave of Allah, Abdullah. It means servant of Allah. The words which were conveyed to him when in a state of trance by Jabril from Allah are held sacred by the Muslims and are never confounded with those which the Prophet spoke when no physical change was apparent in him. That means that there was a difference. They could tell when the Prophet was speaking things that were straight from Allahu, Yahweh Elohim. They could tell when he was being guided by Ravak HaKadesh, by the Holy Spirit. They could tell when he was speaking about the stories of the lineage of all the prophets leading all the way up to Isa, leading all the way up to Yehoshua HaMashiach. They could tell when he was speaking that compared to when he was just speaking as a normal mortal man. They could tell when the presence of Allah was within his body and Allah was speaking through him when he was being a vessel. They could tell his everyday life compared to when he was completely at work. The former are the sacred book, called the Quran. And that's words which were conveyed to him when in a state of trance. Those words are the Quran, which means the reading. The reading of a man who knew not how to read. The Prophet's own words of preachings or sayings are called al-hadith. Hadith. Hadith. Later on, there are other hadith that have been written and published outside of the Quran. Those hadith are under speculation because those hadith are written by a person who was said to have assembled 6,000 sayings that got broken down to 3,000 sayings, 2/3 of which would have been the last wife ascribed to Prophet Muhammad, Aisha. The other parts of this compendium of hadith are the sayings of people who were the students of the companions of Muhammad. So we have the Quran itself, which is words from Muhammad, compared to words from people who were associated to him. There's only 3 names I'm concerned with after Abraham and Ishmael. That's Muhammad, Abu Bakr, and Mansa Musa. Everyone else is up to question. Let's go. For the first 3 years of his mission, the Prophet preached only to his family and his close friends, while the people of Mecca in general regarded him as one who had lost his mind. The first who responded to his call and embraced Islam was his wife Khadijah. The second, his first cousin Ali, whom he had adopted. The third, his servant Zaid, a former slave. His old friend Abu Bakr also, with some of his slaves and dependents, were among those early converts. Now, from there, because it goes on to tell you all of the things that happened for the next 10 or 12 years, because all of that time was spent in Mecca while Prophet was telling the people, okay, we got to change this, we got to change that. Here's another revelation that I just got. These things are all wrong. Can't do that. 10 years. 10, 12 years. So it's giving a backstory of all of that. We're going to skip ahead to the point in time where the converts, the believers, the Sahaba, those who had taken the promise, all of them had left and they were headed to Medina because the Prophet had already been there and they were granted a safe place. So he told them, you all go ahead. And we're talking a 60-mile journey. You all go ahead. They're looking for me, not you. You all go ahead. Selah. Be right back. Poured up my coffee and I don't have it in this room. I'll be right back. That was quick, wasn't it? It was in the room. I moved it. I'm glad I didn't have to go too far. All right. So we're going to fast forward. And actually, I may have been off with the years because they're saying the 10th and 12th year of Hijra itself, which means they're just counting the whole thing as one journey, one pilgrimage. I have to go back and look specifically to find how long it had been, because there's also something else you need to understand. The same way that the Bible is not exactly lined up on a timeline, everything happens this time, that time, that time. The books are not lined up like that. The same thing with the Quran. It's not lined up. This is the first revelation. This is the second. This is the third. The only way to really know what's going on with the timeline is to read the introduction to each one of the surah, where it actually places it in its time in history. Because they're not lined up, okay, well, this happened, and then a few months later, okay, well, here comes the next revelation. When the Quran was published, it did not get published that way. It was not assembled that way. So what we have received today does not just do a straight start from 0 and get to 10 and follow in sequence. It involves even more study, because then you have to find out, well, what was going on in those periods of time when the surah was revealed. The surah itself tells you what the question was from the people and the answer that was given from Allah, from our Father, from our Creator. This is how you get back to the principles. Since you want to ask this question that is outside of the standards, this is how you get back to the standards. Okay, here it is. The last of the able Muslims to remain in Mecca were Abu Bakr, Ali, and the Prophet himself. Abu Bakr, a man of wealth, had bought 2 riding camels and retained a guide in readiness for the migration. The Prophet waited only for Allah's command. It came at length. It was the night marked for his murder. The conspirators were around his house. He gave his cloak to Ali, saying, or asked him to lie down in bed so that anyone looking in might think Muhammad is laying there. They were to strike him as he came out of the house, in the night or early morning. He knew they would not hurt Ali. He threw dust towards them, and it is said that a blindness fell upon the would-be murderers, and he was able to pass them without being noticed. He went to Abu Bakr's house, and both of them went together to a cave called Thor, Thore, in the desert hills, and hid there for 3 days until the futile chase was over. Abu Bakr's son and daughter and his herdsmen brought food and news after nightfall. Once a search party came quite near them in their hiding place. Abu Bakr was fearful, but the Prophet said, "Fear not, Allah is with us." When the coast was clear, Abu Bakr had riding camels and a guide brought to the cave at night, and they set out to Yathrib. Now, that story is important because there is a surah that's called the spider. Story behind it. Prophet Muhammad and Abu Bakr went and hid in a cave, and while they were in the cave, a spider built a web over the entrance. And so when those people who were chasing them arrived at the cave, they saw a completed web and figured that it hasn't been disturbed. And so they didn't think that Prophet Muhammad and Abu Bakr were in that cave. There's a surah. It's called The Spider. And don't get me wrong, I think it's Anakbut. I'll have to look it up and make sure. There's some very important information. Outside of the actual story itself, there's important information inside of that surah. And it's talking about this specific situation. All right, so from there, we're going to skip forward. And this time, I'm going to read to you the instance when Prophet Muhammad passed away, all the things that were going on surrounding it. Minister Stephen, Shalom Barak. Shalom Barak. My brother, you're in just in time. I was picking up on what you were talking about in your live earlier today. And that's basically what I've been talking about. I wanna address something because that's what I've been doing in this particular session. I want to address something. People have issues with the concept of Christianity because not everybody walks according to the standard. Everybody says they got the same rule book, but not everybody follows the standard. People have issues with modern Hebrews. People have issues with Paleo Hebrews. People have issues with those of Islam, Muslims. People have issues with Buddhists and everybody else you can think of. Because even though everyone says they walk under the same standard, you have a lot of people who are misrepresenting what that standard is. So that's what I'm going through right now is I'm giving a background because really, yeah, that is my position. I claim it. My position is to show the correlations between Islam and Avra culture because they are one and the same. Now, does everybody actually practice it correctly? No. They'll jump in your face and tell you that they are, but no. It's kind of like somebody telling you that they are from the Bulls, the Chicago Bulls. And then you look on the roster and they are not on the roster. That's what we're dealing with. Those who should be recognized compared to those who have taken false authority. So I've been telling the room that there's only 3 names associated with Islam and Muslims that I'm concerned with after the names of Abraham and Ishmael, Ibrahim and Ismail. Or as you would say it in Arabic, Ibrahim wa Ismail. Ishmael Eden Ibrahim, Ishmael son of Abraham. Why? Because they were representing the lineage all the way back to Adam. Now, what happened after Ishmael is all on the choices of those who were born to that lineage. Same way with Esau, Isaac, and everybody else. Those who actually walk according to the right standards, the righteous standards, will be remembered and their names will be put in the book of life. Somebody walk with me. All right. So here we go. Let's see, what time is it? 1:19, or an hour and 19 minutes into this broadcast. We started a little bit, maybe 20 minutes late. So that means we have another 20 minutes to get to the top of the hour. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. In the 10th year of the Hijrah. Oh, by the way, calendars. Ramadan is in the Hijra calendar. Hijra means pilgrimage. The practices of Muhammad came before the pilgrimage. All right, let's start this again. In the 10th year of the Hijra, he went to Mecca as a pilgrim for the last time. His pilgrimage of farewell, it is called. When from Mount Arafat, he addressed to an enormous throng of pilgrims. He reminded them of all the duties of Islam enjoined upon them, and that they would one day have to meet their Lord, who would judge each of them according to his work. An extract of the address is as follows. I declare this truth that there is no God except Allah, and I declare this truth that Muhammad is his servant and his messenger. La ilaha illallah wa Muhammad Rasulullah. That's why we say that. O servants of Allah, I advise you to worship him, and I persuade you to do so. O people, listen to me carefully as I speak clearly, for I do not think I will have the opportunity to meet you here after this year. O people, your blood and your property has been sanctified to one another. Yet, just as this month, this year, this day, in this city are sanctified. Beware that I have conveyed the word to you. O Allah, be my witness. So, whosoever has anything in trust should return it to its owner. Amounts of usury of the days of ignorance are remitted, and first of all, I remit the claims of usury of my uncle, Abayas bin Abdul Muttalib, someone who was following him around, declaring that all of the things that he said were false and people should go against him. Followed him around throwing stones at him. Not to harm him, just throwing stones, trying to trip him up. Because his uncle was a merchant in the market, and they would change their prices according to the seasons of the pilgrims who would come to Mecca for worship. Because they had these intercessors and daughters of Allah inside of the house of Allah, instead of just ascribing to the standards of Allah. And so Muhammad was telling the people, this must end. And his uncle was very upset. Said, you're messing with my money? Because when people come in that we don't like, we can raise the money up, raise the prices up. They need water. We're going to have expensive water. They need these particular clothes. We're going to make them expensive. And then when the preferred customers come in, we'll make it cheap. But Muhammad said, no, you can't be doing that. Didn't we read somewhere where somebody said, if you curse the name of Abraham, then you be cursed? If you do ill will towards, just checking. Just checking. So let's do this again. Amounts of usury of the days of ignorance are remitted. And first of all, I remit the claims of usury of my uncle Abbas bin Abdul Muttalib. Beware that I have conveyed the word. O Allah, be my witness. O people, your women have been given some right in respect of you, and you have been given some rights in respect of them. It is incumbent on them to let no one enter into their sleeping chambers except you, and do not let anyone enter into your house whose entry is not liked by you, and they should not commit any adultery. Wasn't Kahale just talking a couple days ago about you should not be just going in and out of your house through back doors and climbing through windows, because if you did so, it doesn't look like the person who is the head of that household. Just saying. After me, do not go back to the ways of idolatry, and do not slay each other. I am leaving with you two things. As long as you follow them, you will never go astray. And those are the book of Allah, the Quran, and my sunnah, what I said and what I did. You've heard of Sunni Muslims? It's because they're saying that they follow the Sunnah. I'll be honest with you. Studied with the Sunnis. However, I can't call myself a Sunni. There's 4 or 5 schools. One of the schools is the Maliki. However, I can't completely walk with them because they ascribe to the Hijra calendar. The Hijra calendar was developed after the passing of Muhammad. He didn't use the Hijra calendar. He had a calendar he was already using. Khan, we must learn in order to correct. Beware that I have conveyed the word. O Allah, be my witness. O people, your God is one and your ancestor is also one. You are all the progeny of Adam, who was created from dust. The most respected before Allah amongst you is one who is most God-fearing. No Arab has preference over a non-Arab, or a non-Arab over an Arab. Preference, if any, is on the basis of who fear Allah the most. What's an Arab? A nomad. Those who are present here should convey these words to those who are absent. Possibly those who are absent may remember and observe these things more carefully than those present. O people, Allah has assigned a specific share of inheritance to each heir. To will more than 1/3 of one's property is not permitted. The child belongs to one on whose bed, marriage, it is born, and the adulterer shall be stoned. At the end of this discourse, he asked, have I not conveyed the message? And from that great multitude of men, who a few months or years before had all been conscienceless idolators, the shout went up, O Allah, yes. The prophet said, O Allah, you are my witnesses. O Allah, you are my witnesses. O Allah, you are my witnesses. Ya Allah. O Allah. Ya Allah. Now what does that tell you? Ya Haba Elohim. Ya Allah. Ya Allah. Just saying. It was during that last pilgrimage when the following verse of the Quran was revealed, declaring Al-Islam to be Allah's chosen religion. This day I have perfected your religion for you, completed my favors upon you, and approved Al-Islam as a deen, the way of life for you. That's Allah's words. That's not Prophet Muhammad's words. That's Allah's words. So now we're about to go ahead and put a close on this. All right. The Prophet considered this verse as an announcement of approaching death. Soon after his return to Al-Madinah, he fell ill. The tidings of his illness caused dismay throughout Arabia and anguish to the folk of Al-Madinah, Mecca, and Taif, the hometowns. At early dawn, on the last day of his earthly life, he came out from his home beside his mosque, Masjid al-Nabawi, at Al-Madinah, and joined the congregation prayer, which Abu Bakr had been leading since his illness. Abu Bakr had been given some khutbahs, sermons. And there was a great relief among the people who supposed him well again. When later in the day, on the 12th of Rabi al-Awwal, 11th year of the Hajj, the rumor grew that he was dead. Umar threatened those who spread the rumor with dire punishment, declaring it as a crime to think that the messenger of God could die. Remember that name, Umar. Is there an Umar in your life? Just saying. He was storming at the people in this strain when Abu Bakr came into the mosque and overheard him. Abu Bakr went to the chamber of his daughter Aisha, where the Prophet lay. Aisha is the daughter of Abu Bakr. Abu Bakr is a close companion of Prophet Muhammad. Having ascertained the fact and kissed the dead man's forehead, he went back into the mosque. The people were still listening to Umar, who was saying that the rumor was a wicked lie, that the Prophet was all in all to them, could not be dead. Abu Bakr went up to Umar and tried to stop him by whispering a word. Then, finding he would pay no heed, Abu Bakr called to the people, who recognized his voice, left Umar, and came crowding around him. He first gave praise to Allah, and then said, "O people, lo." We know that word, don't we? Lo. As for him who used to worship Muhammad, peace be upon him, Muhammad is dead. But as for him who used to worship Allah, Allah is alive and dies not. He then recited the verse of the Quran. And Muhammad is no more than a Rasul of Allah, like the Rasuls that passed away before him. If he dies or is killed, will you turn back on your heels, become unbelievers? He who turns back on his heels will do no harm to Allah. Soon Allah will reward the thankful. Surah 3, Ayah 144. And, says the narrator, an eyewitness, it was as if the people had not known that such a verse had been revealed until Abu Bakr recited it. And another witness tells how Umar used to say, "Directly I heard Abu Bakr recite that verse as if my feet were cut from beneath me and I fell to the ground. May Allah be pleased with him." MashaAllah. Alhamdulillah. All praises to our Father. You see, today's party is called, "Do you have a Smith in your life?" What's a Smith? Someone who is skilled in a trade. Most times it deals with molten metal, a blacksmith, a goldsmith, and there's also the wordsmith. You want to talk about sharpening with iron and steel? You have to be a smith. You have to be a smith to figure out how to sharpen iron. You have to be a smith to figure out how to shape it. Yes, we must study. Study and show yourself approved. Yes. It's the only way this will get done. It's the only way we will assemble correctly, grow correctly, and maintain. We were given life in order to make sure that we show what the kingdom of Yahweh looks like. We can talk about it all day, and then all these people run around here talking about, "Well, I don't see it. I don't see, where's the proof? Where's the proof?" Okay, do work. You say you got faith. You say you have a talent. Give it. I can't be more direct than that. I can't put it any other kind of way than that. People are wearing names that tell you exactly who they are, even if they don't know. Look at their name. And then your work precedes you. So look at the work that's been attributed to that name. And it tells you who to align with. Check in your own mind after you've done your research. Does this align with kingdom standards? Does this align with what's actually saying right here? You know, how many times does somebody have to stand up and say, does this say thus saith the Lord? Ask yourself, then look it up, and then go ask somebody else. What did you find? Because the wonderful thing about these holy scrolls, nothing is only mentioned once. Everything always leads back in circles. Everything. There's always somebody else who did a variance of something that you found over here. And so you get to find out, okay, well, not just this one person had to deal with circumstances. Okay, another person came along and tried it a different way. They wanted to wear some different colored pants than that person. One had on blue pants, so they decided they wanted to wear green pants. It still didn't help them. But they stood on the left foot instead of the right foot. No, it still didn't help them because it was outside of standards. The Quran was sent as a reminder to return to the ways of Ibrahim and Ishmael, who got their ways from Noah and Methuselah and Avra and Canaan and Abel and Sat and Adamu. The duties of a Muslim is to proclaim faith in knowing that there is only one creator, worshiping only the creator, always extolling the fact that there is a lineage that we are supposed to be respecting and representing and also living according to their steps as well. Fasting, and then doing a pilgrimage to a holy site. There's 5 pillars. Now here's the thing. If Muhammad and the Sahaba had to leave Mecca because the folks wasn't acting right, where are we supposed to send our pilgrims for their pilgrimage? If the people in Jerusalem aren't acting right now, is it about a location? Is it about a certain destination on earth? Or does it start here and here? So many people are out of their right minds and trying to have an out-of-body experience that they forgot that they need to be present. Like I said yesterday, I think that's what I was sent here to say for today. And we're going to close it with that. You see, we meet together daily except for Shabbat to talk about entrepreneurship and service in your community. Today's special interest group that we were focused on is SOC. And when we talk about SOC, we look at concepts of community development and those perspectives on how we can go about organic marketing strategies. So today, even though the discussion was about Muslims and Islam, it directly goes back to what's going on with SOC. Well, how is that? Because it's going to take SOC in order for STOP to happen. Sustenance, textiles, occupations, purpose. There are positions within the kingdom of Yahweh Elohim that need to be filled, and they can only be filled by those who are from Yahasharael. We have no room for those who wear false titles. We have no room for those who lie on their resumes. Because here, you will write your best resume. You will fire your boss, and then you're going to hire yourself according to your merits on your resume. So no, you can't lie. Can't lie. Yep. I was sitting here today to tell you about that. So when a person comes to you and they say that they're a Muslim, ask yourself, do they act like Muhammad? Do they act like Abu Bakr? Do they act like Mansa Musa? Do they act like Ishmael? Do they act like Ibrahim? Do they act like Noah? Do they act like Methuselah? Do they act like Jacob? Do they act like Yasharael? Do they act like Isaac? Those are the questions you need to ask yourself instead of just looking out here and what they suggest to you. Because please remember, in all of our scrolls, we have been told you won't look like the face of your father anymore because you stopped acting like your father. So everybody that's running around here talking about they represent something, you better do your studies first before you accept their claims. Many much love and respect to all of you. Yes, we have to move beyond our faith. Beyond our flesh. Yes, indeed. Basmillahi ar-Rahmani ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahmani ar-Rahim. Maliki Yawmi Din. Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'in. Ihdina as-sirata al-mustaqim. Sirata allatina an'amta alayhim. Ghayril maghdubi alayhim. Walad Dallin. Amen. In the name of our Father, our Creator, the most merciful, the most compassionate, Creator of all worlds, ruler of the day, maker of our divine path. We ask you to find us in your favor instead of those who have disobeyed you. We ask you to forgive us and teach us to forgive the same way. We thank you for giving us the divine path. Amen. Amen. Salah Shay. When we get together at 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern Time, there's also the third prayer of the day. It's called Maghrib. Maghrib means Morocco and all points west. Keep that in mind. Whenever we get together, I'm basically giving you all a khutbah. And I've stepped away from making sure that Bible and Quran are always in there. Sometimes I just give you current events and I might mention a verse here and there. However, yes, I'm really supposed to be showing you how these things really do interrelate and we are interdependent. So yes, when we get together, it is a khutbah. And yes, I am an imam. And I even follow according to what is being spoken by Kofi. Why? Muhammad went to study with some Paleo Hebrews shortly before the pilgrimage from Mecca. He went to study with some Paleo Hebrews, which would have just been called Avra, or those of the faith of the divine path went to study with them after the first surah was revealed, and that was Al-Fatiha, which is what you just heard. I recited Al-Fatiha. It is said when we pass away and we stand before our Father, we will be asked, have you heard Al-Fatiha? So it is my duty to give you the presentation of Al-Fatiha every time I'm in front of you. It's also said that those 7 lines are the mother of the Quran, because everything that you're going to know or you're going to hear about in each one of the surah is spoken in those 7 lines, those 7 ayat. It's my duty. I pray that all of you have a great day. I pray that your day started great, and if not, I hope that it ends great. Your Yom. Many much love and respect to all of you. Our Father's peace to all of you. Shalom Aparak, peace and blessings. Assalamu alaikum. Yahava Ahava. That means our Father is love. Ahava Ahava. Love is love. Now that makes compassion. And we're talking about Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. Most merciful, most compassionate. In Chinese and in Japanese, you would say Amitabha or Amitabha to say compassion. That simply means, in my practice fist, I have learned restrained fist, Junbei, and also stick fighting. Until we meet again. Yahava. Much love and respect, family.